5.
Well,
Not do it right. I didn't do it right.
shit.
I didn't do it right. So much is such a mess. Okay. How do I minimize this?
Zoom out again.
How do you do that? Okay. That was just Millie. Copy.
It's still copied. Three out.
Okay.
Hey.
You just knock or anyone?
No.
Okay.
Do we need like better lighting?
No, this is fine.
Hi.
Did you get an email?
Yeah, I got it. Well, I didn't get the email, but I Facebooked you. So. Is this working?
Oh, here we go.
All right.
Hey.
I like your Ron Swanson poster.
You're Brian on?
Nah, probably not.
Messing with it.
Hi.
Oh.
What's up? Guys, wait, this is so weird. I've never used Google Hangout before. Where
What's
are
up?
you guys?
We're in Clem.
Oh.
Club Clem.
Maybe I should come to Clem. I'm not that far. I'm like 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
Hi, Ruby.
Everyone, sorry about that.
Drew.
Wi-Fi cracked out last second.
Hi, Drew.
Drew. Okay. Laura.
Have you seen this?
Oh.
Wait, Laura, are you definitely going to the thing on Wednesday? The Bernie Sanders thing? Cool. Good.
Yeah, and all the rooms are figured out.
Yay. Are you going to spend the night?
No, we're leaving that night.
Cool.
I have an 8 a.m.
All right. I think everyone that's supposed to be on is on right now. Does anyone know anyone else is on? Or get to kind of get started?
Ruby, does everybody have a link to the notes?
To the notes?
Yeah.
I didn't print out the agenda. Do you want to put it in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I had to request access, so I can't see it yet.
Oh, okay. Gotta make the link shareable. Let's see. How is everyone?
Don't be shy.
Good.
I'm great. I stayed in Charlottesville for at least one night this weekend. Every weekend I've been away since August, so I'm getting a little tired. And so I woke up this morning and made myself French toast, and it was lovely, and coffee. So weekends are great. Haven't had one since August.
What have you been doing?
lots of retreats. Yeah, I visited a friend this weekend who doesn't go to UV anymore, so it was nice to see her.
Nice. Yeah, I went camping with you, Dan, so I got to pet some
Oh
cows.
my gosh.
It was pretty relaxing, going out into the farm life for a little bit.
Oh, guys, I asked someone if they had a recycling bin this weekend, and they're like, I bet you're flaming liberal. They're like, we don't have recycling, I bet you're flaming liberal. And I was like, yeah, sorry.
There's no need to apologize for that.
A flaming liberal. They didn't have recycling.
Doesn't the county just like get your recycling now? Like anyone doesn't have it.
Yeah, technically everyone's supposed to have it, but it's up to them whether or not they like get the recycling bins and stuff. It's kind of ridiculous.
Hey Millie, would you be able to make the link shareable? My drive isn't loading the document right
Oh,
now.
shit. Yeah.
I also just like requested access, so maybe on the document it says like my email address and says blah 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 requested access.
We'll just fix the link. I want everybody able to get on it. Try that out.
Cool. Perfect.
Yeah, I see it.
Nice.
All right.
All right, cool. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Thanks for hopping on, everybody. Like on a Sunday evening. I know it's hard to get the energy to do anything, so this is definitely appreciated. Let's just go around and do some general intros. Just some name, school, and year, and what campaign you're working on. So just some general things. So I'll go ahead and start. I'm Rabib. I'm a senior at the University of Mary Washington, and I'm currently working with Divest UMW.
Hey, I'm Drew. I'm a freshman at UMW, working on Divest UMW as well.
Who's going next?
Hi. Yes, will go next. I'm Kate, first year at VCU, and I'm working on Divest VCU.
I'm Laura, freshman at VCU, Divest in Student Power.
Okay, I am Laura. I go to UVA. I'm a sophomore, and I've been spending my time on some work with the Virginia Student Power Network with Laura, and so we've been working on divestment, getting that ball rolling. We have a good meeting on Tuesday, and I'm doing some work around the Paris Climate Talks in December. So,
I'm Ian. I'm a first year at UVA, and I'm working on Divest UVA. Divest UVA.
I'm Sally. I'm a sophomore at UVA. I'm also mostly working on Divest UVA. Yeah, which hopefully gets started again. I know we took kind of a pause, but I think we're starting up again stronger. Your fingers, hopefully.
My name is Millie. I am at Virginia Tech, and I work with the Environmental Coalition here, as well as the divestment campaign, which is also getting restarted. But I'm excited to see all of you guys and meet you virtually. So I guess we should just hop into the call now that we're here. Everybody was able to get on, okay? Have you all tried? I'll just let you kind of find your way there. So we wanted to start off by having kind of like a warm-up conversation, and it's going to be a challenging one, but I think it's going to be something that loosens everybody up and gets us ready to talk about theory of change, which is like a more difficult topic. So I was thinking we should go over mission first. And I'm not saying that it's easy, it's a sticky conversation for sure, but I was hoping to break it down a little bit. So if you are all on the document and you know where I am, I'm going to put my cursor at an example of a mission statement. And this one just happens to be from the fine institution that I attend, Virginia Tech. That was facetious, but regardless, the mission statement is pretty clear. And I will let you guys read it a little bit. I'm not going to read it word for word. I hope that you, there are pretty broad statements involved in this, mission in particular, because the university obviously has kind of a broad mission. But if you think about the goal of a four-year college or just an institution of higher learning, the goal is to manufacture people who are critical in their thinking and send them out into the world so that they are successful and that they are educated. And so if you keep that goal in mind, it's a little easier to break it down. So in terms of VSEC, I think that it's good to start with assessing what VSEC is, where we are, what we've accomplished. And I understand that a lot of you are new, which is so cool and exciting, but you obviously have some idea of what this network, what this coalition is, and I want to hear about what you think we are. Everyone, so go for it.
I like to think of VSEC. So I just heard about VSEC the end of last year. I just heard it alluded to, and then was explained to it. It was explained to me this year. And what I really see it as is a more stable platform for organizing, because it brings more people to each event, and it really, I think it's an important symbol of cohesiveness and how this movement isn't just individual and it needs everyone to succeed. So I know that's not much of mission statement, but I think those are really important aspects of VSEC and why it's important. I don't know how to put that into words, I guess.
Yeah, it's a really good way to build student power, I guess, in a community way.
Anyone else? I think you guys made really good points. It is obviously a really intangible thing. It's hard to put into words exactly, but I think that you were touching on things that we have definitely played towards, if that makes sense, in what we've done. So if we think about past accomplishments just over this last year, we worked together across campuses, across the state, coordinated efforts in terms of letter dropping, lobbying our representatives. We organized and brought people out to the resistance ride in May. Folks came to Blacksburg for a pipeline rally. We facilitated other actions around Richmond over the summer. So I think that idea of community and what you guys were saying about being a platform to launch from and work together across the state is really good. So we obviously are working towards something. Like, all of us have been brought together under the umbrella of VSEC because we are seeking a more perfect world to live in, and specifically a more perfect state. Perfect, obviously, is a long shot, but we are working towards some ideal. So what would, just to like vision build for a second, like what is an ideal Virginia for you guys?
One that is not controlled by corporations, but is controlled by the people and not just the rich ones.
I would say, like, with the corporations thing, like, having a state where people value other people more than them. So, like, that can mean a lot of things. That means, like, paying people a living wage here. It means, like, having popular representation matter more than, like, anyone's finances.
An ideal Virginia for me, too, would have way more environmental education, whether that be in the form of, like, in school or through other organizations. We don't really have a good environmental education platform right now, and I think that's important. And that's something that, like, we as students can build.
And also more education for the students on a political basis so that they can get involved and they can vote about things like the environment and not feel like they are just uneducated standardized to whatever other people decide.
Also, an ideal Virginia for me would have a much larger renewable energy industry. So something like production of solar panels and wind turbine farms would be a much bigger part of the Virginian economy.
And economy not based on extraction.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love this. So I don't know if, we're going to emerge from this call having built a mission statement. But I think that it's good to keep working towards it. I don't want to cut this off. Rabib, do you think we have a couple more minutes to talk about this?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. Because what I want to talk about next, and some of you guys were kind of hinting towards it, is like, what are our tools? Like, as students, sometimes we feel powerless, like we're at the hands of some other person's decision making. But I think that that is kind of a farce, and students actually hold a great deal of power. But like, what exactly is in our tool shed to make change?
I really think workshops are a huge thing that we can build off of. We have the people, we have like the training, we're getting more of it, we're getting more exposure, we have enough like manpower to do it, and they're really efficient. They can you can have an hour workshop that's great, and it's not too much of a time commitment, and you can get a lot in, and there's a lot of different topics that you can cover. I don't know. I really enjoyed the Divest VA ones, and I feel like if they were open to like student bodies, it would make a huge impact. So that could be part of the, I don't know if it's part of the mission statement. I guess it could be, like, to have these types of workshops and trainings and like education by students for students kind of thing.
I really agree with that. Like, I think that we like have the knowledge and like we know what we're talking about. Like, we know what we want. Generally, we have a pretty good idea, and like we have like a really smart group of people who like understand what we're fighting for. And I think that like this is something I realized like this last week is like I was like planning this event, but I like kept looking to other people. I was like, I need you to help me like formulate this, but like I realized that like I knew what I was doing, and like that was really empowering. You like know that I have the answers and like I don't need to go talk to a professor. Like we can like share our own knowledge and like I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's a blessing and a curse that we're in a university, so we're surrounded by a whole lot of people who are neutral on subjects like climate change, and this gives us the opportunity to, speak from our own knowledge and try to draw more people in who have not, decided either way on something or who may not be knowledgeable, and to add them to our arsenal of, educated leaders, I guess. So like tabling is a thing and that type of stuff.
I think universities give us a unique opportunity to build a lot of power to do things like actions and so forth, because if you look at like history, a lot of radical movements have started at universities because you have a large group of people in a small area. University is required to give you certain things, like if you want a space to meet, a club or something, you can request a space to meet, and you're given that. And you can interact with a large number of people on a daily basis. And these types of situations are very unique to universities that can only happen here. And it really enables us to outreach to a lot of people.
So true. So, sorry, I'm getting lost in having to take notes and then also trying to lead the discussion. So I don't know if we want to. I had some time. I had planned to like take a minute to. Oh, Laura, do you want to take notes, Laura?
If it would be helpful to you moderating.
It might be helpful.
Already, with all the time.
What'd you say?
I'm taking notes right now.
What?
So,
Where?
on my laptop that doesn't have internet, so I could like send them out after and synthesize them. So.
Okay. I mean, I've been taking notes this whole time, so.
Okay.
Laura, do you mind picking up where I left off? It's kind of like scattered and doesn't make any sense, but. Cool. Thanks. All right. All right. So I don't know if we're going to like emerge from this with an actual mission statement, but I wanted you guys to kind of see the way I broke it down. So in the example, Virginia Tech states that they are a public land-grant university and they serve the Commonwealth of Virginia. So in theory, we could say, by establishing what we are, that we, and these are just from what you guys were saying, we are a platform for organizing, we are cohesive in our efforts across the state, we work together to build student power and community. You know, that would function as like the first part of that mission statement if we're going off of this particular model. And then I was kind of picking up on the through statement. So through X, we accomplish Y to reach our ultimate goal Z. In this example, it says through focus on teaching and learning, research and discovery, and outreach and engagement, university creates, conveys, and applies knowledge to expand personal growth and opportunity, advance social and community development, foster economic competitiveness, and improve quality of life. So that's a little more trickier, but I think that we can see it as like through our tools, which include what you guys said, as like workshopping, student networks, which include like sharing knowledge and tabling and drawing people in, and then just like sheer student numbers. We have the tools to create that ideal Virginia that we were talking about. So non-corporate controlled, a valuable place, like a place where we value each other as people, a place that we're educated in environmental issues as well as our political action, and somewhere where we're not relying on extractive industries and more so on renewable energy and the renewable energy industry. So that's messy, and I think that serves as like a good place to start, and I hope you guys agree. Are there any more thoughts about mission?
I really like the last part of Tech's mission statement that says improve the quality of life. Can we steal that? Because like we're trying to improve the quality of life of everyone, right? I don't know. I think it's a good phrase that's very applicable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oops, sorry.
don't worry. Go ahead.
I think it's an interesting point to touch on that we're trying to improve the quality of life of everyone. That maybe we should mention the fact that we are a Virginia Student Environmental Coalition, but we do think about the larger world, even though we act locally.
Yeah, I like those points a lot.
And I think like part of building a better quality of life is like building like a better community. Like I think that like we have our own community, like, and like we're building an alternate way of like relating to each other that like is in part undoing the work that we're like fighting against.
Yeah, you guys are saying really good things. I wish we had obviously more than this time to talk this out and try and create something, but I think the fact that we're opening up the discussion for it is good, and I like where your minds are going. So thank you. So just moving on, I guess, and I'm sorry for this, but we gotta keep chugging. Moving into theory of change. Were you guys able to do the readings at all? Hell yeah. Oh, okay, make the document editable. Rabib, do you want to do theory of change while I try and figure this out?
Yeah, definitely. I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, that was really good conversation. I'm really happy on that. So yeah, we sent out those readings about theory of change, and I think theory of change and mission kind of go hand in hand, and I think Millie and I were kind of like struggling with the distinction between those two until like we started kind of like reading into it. So yeah, did y'all get a chance to do the reading? To do the readings?
Was it like
So, it was the racial equity one? Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and just like talk like about what y'all thought before of those readings and like what y'all got from it, and we can kind of like synthesize something together into like a working definition. So what do you all see as like in what is sorry, give me a second. Like what do we all understand like a theory of change to be? What is your understanding of that term if you had to give like a definition?
In order to move forward and have real change occur, we should have a set of beliefs and sets of ways in which we act and are effective, so we're all on the same page.
Yeah, we need to develop strategies, like overarching strategies of how we want to. We need to like define our issues that we want to solve, and then think of strategies in which to do that, in which to solve them.
I think if we properly implement a theory of change, we should achieve our mission goals.
Yeah.
I do want to offer the distinction between strategy and theory of change. Although it seems like it it's obviously a really difficult distinction, but a theory of change is like putting strategies into action. So like it's theorizing, this is what we want and this is what we're up against, and these strategies in theory would give us this outcome. So like strategies are definitely a part of it, but we are having like two separate conversations about strategies and theory of change as a part of this like restructuring of VSEC. So while it's all really closely connected, I think it's important to realize that strategies just make up like one part of the theory of change. So one line that I thought was good from the racial equity reading was a theory of change is what needs to happen in order for a desired change to occur. That's just like really succinct, it's really clean, it just says what it is and that it's like goal oriented, if that makes sense. And then there is a list in that reading, and I'm not sure if you guys have it up right now. I can send you the link. But we'll be kind of using this for the rest of our conversation, so it might be useful to just like have it up in another window. There is one part where there are bullets, and it's when you have a complete theory of change, you will have these 7 or 8 things. So if you just want to like read those over, I think that just for the sake of time we won't read through them exactly, but later we're going to break down theory of change. And yeah, sorry if that's vague, but I think that we should probably transition to the next part of the conversation.
Yeah, so I think y'all hit on, I think especially me and Millie hit on like 2 really important things. And like, I think a big aspect of the question of how we're going to achieve our mission is like the how part. I think for me, like Millie said, like that's like the major distinction between mission and theory of change. And said, well, it's like, well, we have an idea of like an ideal Virginia, not dominated by corporations and like fossil fuel industry, and we want a better life for everybody. But theory of change really makes us like focus in on like what those roadblocks are. And y'all said, like how we're going to like tackle those roadblocks. So I feel like we had a really good conversation I had a case study set up for this, but I feel like we had a really good conversation on Virginia, and y'all were identifying a lot of good aspects of like our fight here. Do you think it would be helpful to do the case study, or do we want to delve deeper into Virginia?
Do you mind giving us like the takeaways from the case study? You've already looked at it, right?
Yeah, sure. So the case study is like it's a look on how specifically Divest Harvard has framed their theory of change and like their reasoning, and it's like a presentation on why they gave like on like why divestment is a feasible tactic and it's like a strategic tactic to combat climate change for Harvard as an institution itself. And so I figured maybe looking at that, we could like decipher certain roadblocks and stuff that we might face here in Virginia. So, are we okay? Let's go ahead and go over that then. I'm gonna do screen share, and I'm just gonna like walk through the presentation and like kind of give some details. This is one. Whoa. That was not supposed to happen. see.
Do a entire screen.
Entire screen. What does that mean?
That's the left option.
Hey, Rabib.
What's up?
I was just gonna bring up, spending a little bit of time in like Massachusetts. It's a completely different sort of college culture up there, because most of the institutions that are notable are large private institutions like MIT and Harvard, more so than in Virginia, where it's much more of a large public school institution culture. So I think that plays into the theory of change a lot, and it might be sort of Harvard's theory of change is very different compared to ours.
Okay, I'd agree with that. Um, how do you think the roadblocks that we have in Virginia are different from the ones in Harvard?
Well, I think we have a lot more tools at our disposal as members of a public institution predominantly than a private institution. Like at Harvard, the main thing that would matter to them is money, you know? It's how much are your parents donating or how much influence do you have there versus you have a mandate on your public institution from the state to serve, you know, members of the state. Like Virginia, well, VTAC's main goal was a research institution for the state to, you know, do high-level research for, you know, state operations. UVA also is mainly focused on research institution for state operations, and so it's a lot more of a there's a lot more control we have as citizens of the state and as members of the university, versus Harvard doesn't have to answer to the Massachusetts state government. So I think we have more tools at our disposal.
Okay, that's definitely true. Can anyone else like identify any like roadblocks that we have here in Virginia that we need to overcome in order to like get our mission statement?
Well, I think it should, I think every institution is different. I mean, just like you were saying, Ian, even the differences between schools in Virginia make it hard to come up with, one fluid theory of change or mission statement. Like, VSEC faces the challenge of having to overcome the differences of all of our institutions. But when you kind of like look at it, while Harvard wields a different kind of power than we do, we're still fighting the fossil fuel industry. We're still up against kind of the same stuff, and their challenges do look different in that like fight. But I think that we can learn something valuable from the way they've structured their campaign, because we individually, as different schools, as students, as different people with different focuses and stuff, like, are all going to have to like overcome those differences in order to address like climate related issues in Virginia. Does that make sense? Are we going to be able to do the Prezi, Rabib?
I'm having a hard time figuring out the screen share. I think we.
Sorry.
That. Hasn't happened.
Ooh.
Is it better?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, well, I don't have to do the screen share, but I can walk us through the situation. If y'all just want to like pull it up, and then I can direct you through it.
I put the link in the chat if anybody missed it. Do you think we can do it in like 10 minutes, Rabib?
Yeah, definitely. I can walk it through.
Cool.
Okay. So, yeah, here's Divest Harvard's theory of change. And it's basically like an analysis or like a synopsis of how they view their campaign. within a broader movement, but also using like the specifics and the context of their situation and their place like in the nation to combat climate change. Um, so to begin, to go to the first slide, just a little background history. Divest Harvard has had like a lot of beef with their school president. Their school president has been really adamant against divestment, has not like bowed down to any demands or concerns of the students, and is also like has like a history of like putting out a lot of op-eds in media that have been used by other board members to discount divestment. And like the main argument she uses is like the endowment is not a political tool, and that universities aren't institutions like that should be used like for the sake of politics. And so, you know, as an academic, like a professor of like Ivy League institution, she has like a lot of say, and so that's kind of what Divest Harvard's up against. So Divest Harvard like really needs to like kind of okay. So go to the next slide until you get to her arguments, which is hypocritical. It doesn't work. Nobody cares. Really disempowering arguments that don't really get to the root of what we need to talk about. And then so skip over the tobacco one. Skip over the slides until you get to the energy industry. Sorry. Okay, I can just keep talking. But I think so. What Harvard's up against with this kind of thing is like, how can they present divestment in a way to prove that it's like strategic and that it works, and like how can they use like the different moving parts and like fit them in everybody's minds to like where it does make sense. So if you go along in the Prezi, eventually you'll get to the part about Congress. So if you get to the part where it's in quotes and it says it's too easy, and it has a picture of Congress, here's where Harvard really delves into like the specifics of the campaign and like how it looks like, and like, you know, what are the key players involved in this process. So Divest Harvard really identifies Congress as a problem. Congress has been on a drop approval rate for the past like 10 or so years, and they have been like increasingly like enacting like less and less legislation. And so the idea being is that like Congress is like a dead institution, and it's like a dead body, and it's no longer working for the people. So there's a slide that shows the bars with like the rates of enacting legislation, and it's going more and more down, showing that like, you know, Congress is like not implementing the changes that we need or that the American people see as necessary for like our society. So the next slide after that consists of, you know, it has some people in the White House, and then it has the corporations. And this kind of, the way this model is set out, it implies that the people's input goes into the White House or into Congress, into our governing bodies. And so then what our governing bodies does with that input is create like processes and policies that regulate corporations, that make sure corporations are serving like our benefit as people. And so this is Harvard's kind of like ideal model. This is like what, you know, like how we want to see a Virginia that's like, you know, free of corporate control and one that serves everybody. This is kind of how Harvard views themselves within the broader picture. If you hit next, there's a block between the people and the White House, but it shows an arrow from corporations right to the White House. So alluding back to Congress being a dead body, like the people's input is no longer being put into the White House because this institution isn't working, and so therefore corporations can have a significant amount of control over the White House. And you know, for fossil fuel industry, that includes things like subsidies and like mad like Koch brother donations and lobbyists for like the fossil fuel industry. Um, and so yeah, this is a problem. Like they identify this block to like in our government system as like their roadblock to their ideal vision. So you hit next. It shows a bunch of people standing on top of Harvard's icon and going, straight to the throat and going right over Congress and um, straight to like the fossil fuel industry. And so, obviously this is alluding to the students in Harvard attacking, or the people like of the Harvard community attacking, like, the investments in the fossil fuel industry, showing that they're kind of sick and tired of our politicians and our policies not working, and so they're going to bypass that, and in order to get their ideal vision, which is to have more control over their lives and have an ideal future, is to directly change the fossil fuel industry by like attacking the school's investments. Yeah, and so by doing that, and by like working on direct actions, and by engaging in their community and building like a movement, Divest Harvard believes that it's able to create a community in which like they can reach that vision, and they can create one with more community control, and one where like their institution and the place where they live is one based off of their own ideals, and one that's like more self-serving to them. So for the sake of the case study, okay, just to slow down a little bit. Are there any questions about that process? I know it was a little rocky without the Prezi on the screen. Okay, cool. We're just going to go over some questions then to like put it in context with the reading. So what are some different problems and complexities that are being addressed like through Divest Harvard's campaign?
The problem of who has the power, the students or the corporations.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. It's like a battle of like controlling, like getting back those like kind of bodies of those like political bodies like back to serving themselves. So who are some different like stakeholders like in this whole like example? Like who like has like a stake in how this process like plays out, and like who like who has something to win or lose like in this entire kind of battle here?
Well, I think we all have something to win or lose, but like more specifically, I guess to divest Harvard, it was the president and the board and their big endowment. They have a lot to lose versus the students have a lot to win if they were able to get that investment to happen.
Okay, definitely. All right, cool. Do we want to move towards applying this to Virginia now?
Let's do it. So if you guys still have the racial equity reading handy, I would recommend kind of scrolling through to it's the second to last page, I guess, and this will give you like a good way to arrange the framework. But I think we'll do this like really quickly, so be on your toes. Our theory of change has to be plausible, doable, and testable. So we need to start with a change statement. If this happens, or if we implement this kind of change, then we expect this kind of outcome. So like we kind of identified with the case study with Harvard, let's think through rapid fire. What are we addressing on our campuses or as a student network in Virginia? What institutions are we running up against? We already kind of hinted at that before, but I want to hear just one-liners from you. What do you guys think?
Board of Visitors.
The General Assembly and like the DEQ.
Any particularly heinous corporations anyone can think of?
Women and other state and government.
I couldn't really hear that, but
Dominion and other really powerful energy companies in the area.
Yeah. And I think just like the fossil fuel industry generally is a target of our divestment campaigns, be it specifically like coal or, you know, just like generally any fossil fuel company that we would be removing our investments from. And then, you know, the General Assembly, definitely Terry McAuliffe, our governor, you know, the voice of the people, the representative that we chose. I think we can directly target like politicians. So we are united by these things, even though we come from really different places. These are all things that we are working towards as students. They might take different shape, you know, across our different campuses. So like my Board of Visitors is different from UMW's Board of Visitors, but we are still having to, we still experience like challenges with those institutions or with those groups and bodies. So that's who we're targeting. If we work to address the issues, if we work to try and resist these things that stand in our way, these challenging things, what will change? And that goes back to what we envisioned for Virginia, like what we considered to be our ideal Virginia. So off the top of my head, I can think of, if we target the General Assembly about its about sitting in the pocket of dominion, then maybe we can alter the balances of power back towards the people. And that speaks to VSEC's commitment to community as well as like people power. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I think sort of to deal with the whole entire plausibility thing that's in the missions or in the document, that being able to get Dominion's money out of politics would require a national change, which VSEC could be a part of, but isn't part of like VSEC's sort of goals or its power as a state organization.
I would say though that like what ultimately wins an election is votes. Like it doesn't. There's sometimes where like you can pour as much money as you want into something, but like if you have enough people voting, for example, then like the people who get elected are going to like, one would hope like people or like the things that we want. So I think that like I think we do need reform, but like campaign finance can only do so much. I think it's when people feel disempowered and don't vote, that's the problem.
Hell yeah. And like, I guess I was just using that example as an example. And I don't think that that would fit within our theory of change for the reasons that you cited, Ian, because it does have to be like plausible and it has to be testable, as we mentioned. But we also highlighted when we were like vision building that we want our state to be a more politically active and engaged, a more educated in terms of environmental education as well as political education. So if we use our strengths or use what we identified as our tools to educate each other, then hopefully we could tip the scales a little better than what Virginia, like our, our political engagement or our education on these issues is currently. I hope that makes sense. So we kind of identified what stands in our way. But we didn't really talk about how we will work through these challenges. I guess I just kind of said something like that. And this is kind of a vague question, but do you guys think that, I don't know how to phrase this. How do you guys think we can play to our strengths to work through the challenges that might arise with the work that we're doing?
Well, nothing stands in our way of educating other students and drawing media attention, so even people who we can't reach can be brought attention to these issues. And though we have, the government and people with a lot of power and money in our way, if there are enough people who are educated, then we have numbers on our side.
It's a really good point. So ultimately, how will we determine whether we have reached our goals? How do we see that our theory of change is correct? What can we consider a success?
I don't know if there's like a specific point where you say, hey, I've succeeded, like we're done, we can stop now. I think that there are markers that we can use, like how many people participate in the events that we have, how many people show up to the marches, and also we can see it in markers through political change and how like our boards are responding to us. So I would say maybe like making a list of the like more concrete markers of progress would be a good way of doing it, maybe, instead of just having like I think it's good to have a holistic goal, but also if we break it up into smaller goals, it's more attainable and more concrete.
What do you think? So I think you're totally right about those benchmark wins. I think that's like a good like point to track our growth. But also like I also think like maybe we should think of ways that like we know that our growth is like leading towards something and it's kind of like honed in. You know what I mean? And I think you were getting at that when you're talking about like boards, like reaction from board members, or like and like like more political factors. So do you want to like delve into like what those would look like? More like what would we see changing in the state? Like to know that we were winning, or what kind of shifts would we see?
I mean, this isn't necessarily something that, like, just us can do, but, like, who is in power and what their opinions are, you know, just who gets elected shows what the majority of people think is important, and I guess we can affect that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like if we had some sort of influence over who got political power.
Like, I think Dan Gecker, one of the senatorial candidates, is that how you say it? He's the only one that is, like, against extraction, so that's big.
Yeah, I think like kind of bouncing off of that, getting our narrative into what politicians are talking about is like an important sign of how far we're going. So like to use the Black Lives Matter movement as an example, like that was included in the Democratic debate. I think like getting divestment included in like state discussions is a good idea for like how far we've gotten. Thanks, Ian.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. No, it's fine.
No. What I like, it's like we're keeping track of like we have like our eyes on the prize, and like it's like we're like talking about generating all this momentum and movement and networks through education, but like everybody is like keeping in mind like the decision makers as like the end goal of like what ultimately goes across, and like what what kind of defines the political boundaries like of Virginia, and so I think those are like that's really important to keep in mind.
Well, cool. Any other thoughts on that? Well, again, this conversation is great, but it's also frustrating because obviously it's not going to be 1 hour over the internet is not going to turn out the theory of change document that we want to implement in VSEC's future and stuff. But I think that the fact that we started the conversation is important, and I hope you all got something from it. This is obviously like all of our restructuring, really difficult stuff to grapple with, and especially for you new folks, I hope it doesn't scare you off because it's really important work and it's not glamorous, it's not sexy, but it will sow the seeds for what VSEC is going to do in like our immediate future and your immediate future. So I hope that this conversation was valuable and it got you guys stirred up a little bit. Rabib, do you have anything to add? It's 6:05, so.
Okay, no, I think that's everything. That's like an hour, so it's perfect. Just look out for the next conversation, which is going to be led by John, and as of now, Zachariah on strategy. Or yeah. Yeah, great talk, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I can't wait to meet you all in person.
I can't wait to meet you.
All right, have a good Sunday, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.